All right, we are live for the Friday edition of the morning check-in. And as always, looking forward to connecting and sharing my 2 cents on what's happening in the headlines and of course find out what you guys are keeping your eyes on. And so happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. And as always, trying to do something different, tweak things on my end here to keep it interesting and somewhat engaging. And so as more people plug in, definitely let me know where you're watching from. Share some thoughts, ideas, and things of that nature in the comment section. And I definitely want to make this a worthwhile for everybody that's plugged in. And so, as always, looking forward to connecting. So, I have maybe 6, 7 tabs open, all relevant towards the fictitious figures that were given to us today about the employment, the labor market for the most part, and how at this current moment, can you believe anything that comes out of the mainstream media? And of course, the answer is no. So, I want to share my 2 cents on things and just basically try to shine light on how the narratives always are suspect. And when I saw a headline basically pointing at the hurricanes that happened a few weeks ago, they're using that as a catalyst for the entire nation as to why the employment figures are not what they should be if the economy was doing so great. But we're going to talk about that and a couple other things. But anyway, dive right into it, man. So as always, the goal is to give you some resources, things that I believe could be of value to you in reference to things to actually take proactive steps towards accomplishing here and now in a practical sense, so you can better protect and do everything that you need to do to preserve your everything you work so hard for. And then we'll get into some figures, some stats, and then we'll move right along from there and see where it takes us. So definitely going to be a good live stream. So it won't be before you guys long. Just want to get through these headlines, share my 2 cents, and of course, feel free to throw yours out there as well. And if you don't mind, for those who are plugging in, hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you hit the check mark as well as the subscribe bell so that you're notified when these videos pop up. Okay, so let's get into it. So first and foremost, let me do a quick shout out for my partners over at Colonials Metals Group. So if you guys have not, I would encourage you to take the time to reach out to the professionals and find out what your options are. And so on the screen right here, as you can see, here is a quick claim guide for gold. And so if you fill out this form here, you'll get a chance to be contacted by the professionals over at Colonials Metals Group, and they can help you and walk you through the process of setting up a self-directed IRA. And so if you have worked your entire life and you have that 60-40 portfolio allocation, which I would imagine now at this current moment, you realize it may not be the most sturdy and secure moving forward, given the bond situation now and the volatility in the stock market. How, for example, yesterday, 953 billion was wiped off or transferred from the holders into the short hands, and then today all of a sudden now it's pretty much recoup all those losses. So it's unprecedented to have almost $1 trillion swings in stocks. So at some point, it's going to go down a lot lower. And so that's why I present these options for you guys. So if you're interested, click the link in the description, colonialsmetalsgroup.com/RTD. And if you reach out to them, they'll basically walk you through everything that you would need to protect yourself. So colonialsmetalsgroup.com, check them out if you guys are interested. All right, and then next, I want to continue to remind people, if you have not, here we have on the screen here, we have options for people to actually get their physical gold up. So as you can see over my shoulder here, the cheapest unit is $5.43. And when I first started putting this presentation out there, it was right around $5. So literally, since gold has appreciated in fiat terms, it too has also appreciated as well. And so it is the most affordable way to get physical gold in a micro dosage form, which will serve you more in the future than these things right here. So once again, if you're interested, go to buygoldnotes.com, links in the description, and you can get an assortment of these units here, which are 24 karat gold. So check those out if you guys are interested. And then lastly here, I want to remind people, the My Silver team, if you're interested in joining the Silver team, here you have a couple people here who dollar cost average into getting their weight up. And so these are for the newbies as well as the seasoned veterans. So if you guys are interested and want to join me in helping other people get their weight up, then feel free to reach out to me. Links in the description for mysilverteam.com. Sign up there. You get all the information you need, and then we'll connect and talk a little bit more and go from there. So once again, links in the description if you guys are interested. Okay, so let's get into some headlines, man. But before I do that, I want to look at some price action real quick because I noticed that the East versus West price suppression or price discovery slash suppression of gold and silver is becoming very entertaining to say the least. So on the screen, as you guys can see right here, this is what we're looking at right now. If I refresh my screen, we have gold at $2,742.10. Could you imagine? It takes $2,742.10 plus $100 plus premium. So you're looking at about 2,900 of these things here for an ounce of gold. And then when it comes to silver, $32.59. Up is down from 34 a couple days ago. So somebody did a good job of making sure that they didn't completely lose control of things. But once again, manipulation is your friend. And then also I want to make sure I comment on the crypto space. And so a lot of people are like, I follow all the sectors I try to follow to stay in tune with what's real, what's not. And right now, everybody is expecting Bitcoin to respond, and it hasn't. So clearly to me, the powers that be, the forces that stand to benefit the most, have found a way to make sure that the prices don't reflect, I guess, the true demand based upon the 0.0005% of people in the crypto space. And so it's not until the big banks are ready to get involved and to basically take over until people find true price discovery. So as you can see here on the screen, just looking at let's look at the last week. And so we went from 66,000 up to 73 and some change. And at that moment, everybody was talking about, oh, it's going to break out. It's going to, reach all-time highs. But then again, somehow, some way, they managed to get it down. And so once again, it's still 71,000 pieces of paper for some computer code, which in and of itself is unique. So yeah, speculator's dream. Okay. Now, so as I mentioned yesterday, there was approximately $1 trillion wiped off of the S&P 500. So on the screen right here, you can see that out of all the consumer electronics, Apple is down 1.58. Not a big deal. But then again, Apple products, do the world really need them? Unfortunately, they don't. So no love lost. But then again, when the entire stock market hangs upon the Magnificent Seven or Magnificent 10, whichever one you call it, yeah, these type of activity definitely does get people, make them concerned. So, but it is what it is. That 60-40 split is long gone. Not gone, but it's underrated, overrated. 100%. Okay, anyway, so let's get into some headlines. So let's just jump right into it. So here we got the figures. U.S. job growth slows sharply in October. Unemployment rate unchanged at 4.1%. So job growth slows. Unemployment rate unchanged. Okay. So just look at these figures. U.S. growth slowed sharply in October amid disruptions from the hurricanes and strikes by aerospace factory workers. So you mean to tell me 2 hurricanes, massive at that, billions of dollars lost, a lot of lives lost, unfortunately, was enough to impact the entire country when it comes to employment? So you mean the Northeast was, hindered by the hurricanes that took place in Appalachians and in Florida, the southern east southern region, and then you got the Midwest, the entire Bible Belt region. Then you have the Northwest. All those regions were impacted by 2 hurricanes and aerospace strikes. And it doesn't mention the port strikes, which we haven't heard nothing about. I haven't heard nothing about the East Coast and the Gulf port strikes, and I assume they're still going. How come the mainstream media doesn't want to touch on those things? It's good to say that if those strikes are still going, that there's people outside with picket signs, but it's silent. Okay. But it's what they choose to use as talking points for the headlines. And that's what people tend to focus on. Because when you have all the mainstream media bought and paid for, and they flash whatever the hot topic is that was chosen for the day, that's what the prevailing news stories will be. Okay. But it says here, but the unemployment rate held steady at 4.1%. Once again, with all of these revisions, every couple of months there's revisions. Once again, you would think they will revise the unemployment numbers, but that numbers seem to stay the same. Things that make you wonder. Non-farm payrolls increased by 12,000 jobs last month after surging by a downwardly revised 223,000 in September. Look the wording. Payrolls increased by 12,000 jobs out of 320 or so plus a million Americans. And they're talking about 12,000 jobs, and they spin it like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like the economy's, recovered fully. 12,000 people got jobs, surging by downwardly revised. So it's 12,000 new jobs, downwardly revised 223,000 in September. Economists polled by Reuters have forecasted payrolls rising 113,000. Estimates range from no jobs added to 200,000 positions created. From no jobs to 200,000. Look, I mean, just things that make you wonder. A total of 41,400 new workers were strike. New workers were on strike, including machinists at Boeing, Textron Aircraft. When employers were surveyed, October report, the remaining 3,400 workers at the 3 hotel chains in California and Hawaii. So once again, these are some very low figures that unfortunately is used to, I guess, indicate the labor market, the direction that the Fed might take in response to these type of figures here. When you factor in 300 million Americans, of which 75 to 80 are retired, 50 to 60 on government subsidies. So that leaves the middle working class of about 100 and so thousand plus. And they're talking about, 12,000 jobs. Okay. But anyway, I just thought the narrative. And then the other headline, hurricanes stifled job creation in October. Okay. So we see the narrative that was circulated from the main public relations firm that operates on behalf of our government in collaboration with the Federal Reserve, more likely, that they spun out, the narratives of hurricanes being associated with what is less than exciting numbers that they could put out. And then the thing is, they're going to be revised down. It is like, okay, at this point, we've talked about the revision so much. At what point will the majority of people realize that they're being lied to wholeheartedly? Like, you're being lied to flat out. But then again, I mean, in the midst of all this political rhetoric, the left versus right, I guess it's hard to focus on all that at once. Okay, but keep it moving. Here's just some more analysis that I thought was worth sharing. So here we have this chart here referring to all these revisions. And so as you can see on the screen here, which is kind of small, let me see if I can zoom in some. If I can, give me 1 second. Nope, I can't zoom in. And I can, nope, I can't. Let me see if I can. Nope. Okay, so I'll do the best I can. So you guys can probably see something, but I'll read it. It says the Labor Department has revised the last 2 job reports lower by a combined 112,000 jobs. Says initially reported numbers show that the U.S. added 254,000 jobs in September, which was revised down by 31,000 to 223,000. At the same time, the August job report was revised down by 81,000 jobs from 159 to 78,000. It says 8 of the last 11 job reports have now been revised lower. So 8 out of 11 have been revised down. So my initial thought is, what's the point in even coming out with these figures so fast and so soon, apart from, of course, certain things need to be done for, the quarterly or the monthly and quarterly, analysis from the, economics and financial side of things. Sure. But it's like, okay. But then it says here, nearly 1 million jobs have been revised lower over the last 2 years. And then it says, what is happening here? So the revisions to the point of 1 million over 2 years lets us know that the entire 2-year narrative of an economic recovery or the jawboning from both the White House, the Treasury, Janet Yellen talking about, soft landing. I don't see a recession coming in no time. All that narrative stuff from years now. And the Federal Reserve. So you got the White House, the Treasury, and the Federal Reserve all dependent upon giving these bogus figures to strengthen and to keep their narrative moving forward about the economy. And then, in between those three entities lying by, and the entities that support them with the numbers, the data, you have the media in the middle that comes out with these, headlines: economy's doing great, more jobs added, even though employment remains the same. Type, say it'll be a little bit of truth, bold-faced lie in the headlines. And so you got the entities that do the manipulation, the media that propagates the media and blasts it out to have people believe it. Then you have the population, the people who pay attention, who know that they're being lied to, which is 1%, and then the other 99% of the sheeple who are like sleep at the wheel, don't care because they're still employed, so it doesn't matter to them. And this is a system that we're under. Yeah, this is what it is. This is the real world. Yeah, okay. But this is just the figures, the job numbers. I just did a video talking about the greater threat, which is we're approaching. Let me just bring up some more figures. One second, because these are things that will be addressed. They will be, this subject matter will be addressed. There will be some dealing with this. You got almost $36 trillion of national debt that will be addressed. It will be dealt with. You better believe that. Every single unit will be accounted for, and it won't be pretty because there's no way of paying it off. So you have to slowly but surely default on the holders of these. Yeah, okay. Happens every time. And then you factor in credit card debt, auto loan debt, housing debt. Just the word DEBT. It's like a curse word that just ruins lives. And it's just compounding every day. And it's just, yeah, I did more analysis in the video, but you'll see it shortly. But man, it's just, when you look at these graphs, you just see it's very, very problematic. Okay. But that's just on the financial side, dealing with our current governmental issues that we have. And then let's get into some other stuff. Here is something that should be also a little bit of alarming. Here you have from the Visit Ukraine blog. It says the European Commission calls on EU citizens to create a 3-day emergency supply in case of a crisis. And so this has a lot to do with the possible expectation of a conflict over the Ukraine-Russian situation, which is not going away. It will more than likely get worse. Why do I say that? It's because the controlling forces that be would prefer war because it's profitable for those who are on both sides of the trade. And then on top of that, it allows the government to further encroach in on our liberties and everything else. So, but here's just a list of things. It says, according to the recommendations, each household should provide for itself food, medicines, and hygiene products. It says all of these supplies should be at least 72 hours worth. So I would not take this warning lightly. I would definitely. And then the reasons is report outlines a number of potential threats to the European Union, possible cyber attacks and sabotage from Russia, China, and other attackers. How about the Five Eyes? Potential military attack on the EU member state. Oh, let me guess. If you add Ukraine in an emergency measure, they're already in a conflict. Possible disruptions in the global economy, possible or already underway. Consequences of climate crisis, HARP, weather modification mechanisms. The risk of a new pandemic. So these are just 5 things that they're forewarning. One of the 5 or more will be on your front door, wherever you're located at. This is the world we live in. Thank God that this is not all there is to my existence, or I definitely would be one on the worry side as well. Okay, keeping it moving. What else we got here? A couple more here. What we got? Yeah, and in reference to stocks, here's just another thing that I thought was worth mentioning. This is something that really people don't pay much attention to, how overvalued the equities markets is at a time where it has become extremely risky to have a significant portion of your financial future associated with something that is being inflated. And that's equities, that 60-40 split that I was talking about earlier. Stocks, US stocks now account for 49% of the world's market cap. The last time this level was breached was before the dot-com bubble. So this map here shows you what happened after the bubble burst. It went down to something more sustainable, 30, but then the GFC happened and then they juiced it back right back up. And it can go higher. Right now it's 49. There'll be a slight correction. And then, as I always mentioned, I'm expecting 10 trillion like that overnight. Emergency funds as a result of whatever one of those 5 things I just listed that will set off the daisy chain of events that will destroy the world as we've known it. That 10 trillion will probably take it from 49. It's going to go 49 down to like 15% when it burst. Then they're going to try to patch it up and then reinflate it with that 10 trillion. And it can clearly shoot back up, surpass 49, hit 60% type of numbers because it's artificially like that's when they crank out all that legalized counterfeiting and it just flood the markets with it. And the Federal Reserve probably get in the game and buy equities directly as a part of the emergency response. I mentioned that a couple videos ago. So just things to consider. So long story short, if you value high numbers, then the stock market will probably go higher, but then again, it's when you look to get out and you get into the currency won't be worth much of nothing. That's the unfortunate part. Okay, so here's another thing we're talking about. U.S. Moscow on the brink of a direct conflict, Lavrov warns. So this comes after Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned in an interview published today in a Turkey daily, just days ahead of the U.S. presidential election. Quote, under the current president, who has taken the downward spiral of Russophobia in the U.S. to its logical conclusion, our countries are on the brink of a direct military conflict. And so it says, asked about the U.S. elections, pitting former President Trump against Democratic, Lavrov said the outcome would make little difference to Russia. And I wonder why he would say that. Why would it make little difference to Russia? My suspicion would be that he knows ultimately the greater agenda is to always make Russia the bad guy. Hence the whole purpose in NATO being in existence and having expanded substantially from the Cold War era to today. They've deliberately kept NATO in place to always use the Russians as an scapegoat, as the dictator that Putin is, and whatever narrative they want to spin. And it's unfortunate due to the propaganda being ingrained as doctrine, because we've all been indoctrinated with some type of ideology that has been given to us from these mainstream sources. It's not hard to believe that people still think that, even though we live on this planet, we have something to beef about. Like, how come we all can't get along? Apart from the fact that there's a enemy and we're in his kingdom and his core principles is killing, death, and destruction and theft. So, yeah. You can't separate the spiritual essence of what we're experiencing because we're witnessing lawlessness in its greatest form in all facets of life, including politics. All right, what else we got here? And then on my last note here's an interesting commentary from High Impact Flicks. And so just to look at his fan base here, he has 83,000 followers. And he's followed by a lot of people that I follow as well. A lot of people who are very knowledgeable and, most importantly, not afraid of sharing their opinions. So he is sharing his thoughts and comments on how, at the end of the day, the I would say the principalities and powers is the best way that I can describe the controlling forces, those that we don't know the direct names of, but we have an idea, because everybody that's common knowledge are all puppets, and the people above them that's above them that's above them, which sends down the orders. We're witnessing these orders play out, and his thoughts ultimately can be summed up in a picture, which I want to show you because I'm not going to read all this. But he criticizes both the left and the right paradigm, and basically saying that no matter who wins, we lose. And I've been saying that forever. It's just like, but I understand that people are fixated on certain problems and aspects that make it appear as if there's a winning side and a losing side. And I think that's a lot to do with how we've been conditioned to rely upon this two-party system: the good, the bad, the left, the right, the Republican versus conservative, the liberal versus the woke, and yada yada yada. But at the end, it's some way. It always seems that those layers of power above the front-facing puppets, which are presidents, prime ministers, senators, governors, all those people, they have interests that don't necessarily represent the best of the people they represent, is my point. They answer to somebody. The lobbyists, the NGOs, the shadow government, and all of the entities that have deep pockets, like real deep pockets. So somehow, some way, throw a number to these people, and they'll tend to bend. And one of the things that really always bothered me is, I mentioned this before, but just right here it says, I've talked with hundreds of Trump supporters in the last couple of weeks, literally, when I asked them about Trump not firing Fauci, but rather commending him and Bixar and Azar, promoting the clot shot, funding Operation Warp Speed, and pushing the genetically modified therapy to this present day. None of them can defend it. They don't even mention it. And so here's a picture here that shows how the object in their hand, which is a product that is patented by the people at the top that have now infiltrated society with the technology, mRNA technology, which is now being utilized as a natural solution to everything that we've witnessed. It all came about from a signature from one person. And that is completely irrelevant now because of what has been put in front of us now, to where all we see is, the evil left and the borders and all the things that were a problem before now is just now is amplified. And that's the part that has me concerned, because regardless of what happens next week and the lingering effects that will last for probably days, weeks, we the people still lose because they already have the solutions to the problems that they created. The Hegelian dialect is still operational because people think that you need to choose a party, left or right, and not realizing that they all answer to the same people, those layers above them that always seem to get their way. But then again, in the natural, I can see how it looks like that's your only option. And that's why it's on each and every individual to get right in their heart, i.e., having something bigger and greater than yourself to hold yourself down, to anchor yourself to. And then that's when we get into the spiritual essence of things once again. And so me personally, I've been on this kick of really dissecting and understanding what exactly those red words within the 4 books in the Bible actually mean, like the substance behind them. And it all points to a greater government, which is to come physically, but is also present now in spirit form. And so tapping into your inheritance now provides a sense of peace and confidence that regardless of what happens in, around, or to you, even so, that you're still covered. And it's that concept there of the kingdom of God being within, which surpasses all this foolishness. But I can go on and on and on about that, but I'm not. But I just thank God that he's already secured the victory, the ultimate victory. Man. But anyway, that's all I got for today. This was good. I enjoyed this. But as always, for those who are interested, you're new to the channel, don't know, leave a comment, and then take this, share it if you find value in it. And as always, the resources from a practical standpoint are beneath this video here. Take advantage of them, people, and be blessed, be safe. Shalom.